told, my name is Darren Long. I'm the creative director of South China Morning Post. And I'm going to talk to you today about translating data into journalism. It seems a perfect opportunity to do that through by looking at the various graphics we've done on coronavirus. But just to give a little bit more background on my role, which is as a creative director. Now, what that means is I basically bridge the gap between the editorial team and the visual team, and that's sort of it's to make sure that both sides are speaking the same language, and I mean that metaphorically and literally. And our team is very multicultural. We have a Spaniard, a Costa Rican, a Chilean, mainland Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese, myself a Brit, and we can all understand each other. We have one other member of the team. He's Texan. He's a little bit hard to understand, but we get by. So there's the literal language, but then there's the metaphorical language, which is when it comes to dealing with the visuals and the words people. Now some of that is slightly can be slightly confusing, because I think for the traditional journalists, they have a tendency to be start with the conclusion and work their way backwards. So they'll gather data to back up their argument. In the infographic team, we go the opposite way. We gather the data and we use that to tell the story. And by data, I mean visual assets. So to me, data is information, and that information can be absolutely anything. Now, this particular slide, I think, you know, I hate to use a cliche, but you know, picture tells is equivalent to 1,000 words. Now, this one was one of the slides we used as an intro to when we first started doing the coronavirus stories, and this is by Adolfo Arantz. For me, this is an infographic in its own right. I just love it. You've got the sort of the murkiness, the shadiness, the shiftiness of the characters, the sort of the paranoia, everyone looking around, they're all wearing masks. There's a sort of murkiness to the image. So for me, this really sets the tone. And data and journalism for me are many different things. Now, going back to what I said earlier about the data, the data needs to tell the story. It shouldn't be there to back up the story. A lot of the times, like with business stories, the reporters will write the story, will supply various charts and graphs to back up their argument. Now, for me, for the infographics, we go beyond that, and we let the data tell the story. So for me, a perfect infographic, or an infographic that works well, is one where if you remove the data, or if you take out those charts, it no longer makes sense. So basically, the data is the story, and without those visual assets, you no longer have a story. If you can take them out and the story still makes sense, then it's not an infographic or a data visualization. Then the other thing I want to talk about a bit is how you turn data to journalism. Now, one of the main things for that to me is you have to know who your audience is, or understand the audience, and to do that you need to explain to them why the story you're doing matters. Now, at SCMP, we have a very clear modus to operate in. We have a clearly set vision, which is elevate thought, and we have a mission statement, which is to lead the global conversation about China. So with all the coronavirus stories we've done, as you can see in this slide, they're all from the perspective of Asia, either explaining Asia to the West, or just giving more details to the local audience. The other thing is, I know most of us that will be in this in the Data Fest, we all love data, but data's not very sexy to most people. So the thing we do at South China Morning Post, and I think it's a bit of a bit of a keynote for us, is we try to look for the human side. So this goes back to that first slide I showed of the guys in the masks, and then this slide. You know, this story was very heavily data driven, very lots of numbers. But in order to get that to draw readers in and keep them interested, this illustration I think is lovely. You know, we were looking at all the stuff that was going on in China when the outbreak first happened, and there's really eerie pictures of densely populated cities that were suddenly empty, with people in these suits. And you know, this one I particularly love because of the guy in the background who's just, you know, looking back over his shoulder to see what's going on around. So very much the human side, not just the fact that it's hand drawn, but the sort of the humor in it. Now, for us, for the coronavirus story, I guess we were at kind of at an advantage from a news telling point of view. The story broke in Wuhan, and I think at the time, for the rest of the world, it didn't seem a big deal. You know, it was just, there's a handful of people getting pneumonia type symptoms. But in Hong Kong, we'd been through SARS, so we kind of had a premonition about this. So we jumped on this story immediately with South China Morning Post, and we knew it was going to be much bigger than just a local Chinese disease, and a much bigger than a regional disease. It was very clear to us. So we jumped on this. We'd learned from when we were covering the Hong Kong protests last year, we learned that you can't sit on the story with infographics. This is something we had done previously. So we with the protests, we started the story, and we never managed to quite catch up with the news. There was one particular infographic we wanted to do to show the escalation of violence between the protesters and the police, and that was pretty crazy. Because we never caught up. We were constantly doing all these graphics and charts and getting them ready, and then there'd be new story breaking. So in the end, we looked at doing marking the 3 months, then the 6 months, and it ended up we published on the 100 days. What we learned from that was just break the news, do the story immediately. So when we realized that the coronavirus was going to be a big deal, we started preparing immediately. As you can see from these slides, I mean, they're kind of politically incorrect now, but it shows how fast we were on the story, because it's called Wuhan virus, which of course you can't say now. But at that point, it didn't have a name. It wasn't COVID-19, and China was and the WHO were very clearly saying it's not a pandemic, and nothing to worry about, and it can't even be transmitted human to human. So that was the moment we figured, okay, the second they announce it's human to human transmission, we run this story, because we were certain it was. So you can see how on the first slide on the left was where we broke the story. It was the Wuhan virus visual explainer. We did quite a lot of text, and then we went into we showed where Wuhan was. Now, part of the reason we knew this was going to be a big story, because it broke in Wuhan. Wuhan is a hub city. It's right slap bang in the middle of China. It's very, very important. You have Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, all these countries coming, all these very important Chinese cities all coming into Wuhan. It's a huge university hub, and all the traffic goes out all around the world. So in the second slide, is when we updated of the story a couple of days later. Then on the third slide, this is a few days on from there when, actually a few weeks on from there, where the coronavirus, well, it had been the Wuhan virus or Chinese virus had been renamed the coronavirus, and there was data out explaining that the coronavirus turned into COVID-19. Now, we had to keep renosing it, updating it, and we put in the total right at the very beginning. We showed this of course is quite late on, but we used live data to show each country as it became ready, or so not as it came ready, as the virus kicked in there. So we put the total cases and the total number of deaths. We realized that was one of the key thing about the story. And with infographics and the way we work at SAP, we're always trying to just cut everything back, distill it right down to its very essence. So we realized that the most interesting thing in the previous graphic was the death tally, the tally. And very early on, we quickly built an embed. It was the first time we'd done anything like this. We used a Google sheet. We put in 11 cells, and the reporters could go in and write down the cases. At this point, you know, we realized it was going to be big, but we didn't realize quite how big. So in the first slide on the left, you can see it's still called Wuhan virus. There were 540 cases in China, and just a few cases around the region. So we felt we could just do this widget with 11 cells, but it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So we had to keep, we'd come in the morning and the Google Doc would be broken because we hadn't anticipated all these countries coming in. So we'd have to go in and reset it. Long story short, we kept rebuilding the widget. So that as you can see in these slides, it goes from Wuhan virus to coronavirus, then to confirmed COVID-19 cases. And then in the final slide, this is the current iteration of it. And this embed was people from all news organizations all over the world took the code from this and put it into their own stories. So this generated an awful lot of traffic. But to me, this is a almost perfect infographic because there's really just 3 pieces of data on there, but it's a whole story within itself. The other thing that's important when you're doing infographics is to cut the clutter. The clutter is just to be avoided at all costs. And you can see here, we use diagrams. We tend to use a lot of black and white. There's no distraction. You can see that we use red key marks, red outlines to show where the details are. And on the right of this slide, you can see how, as the story developed, how mainland China started off being having the most cases, and then gradually the rest of the world caught up and overtook, and that was added into the story. One of the other things I think that's important with infographics is to create your chronology. With this particular story, we had to keep changing the chronology because we were updating it as we went along. Some of the stuff that started off at the beginning no longer had a place at the beginning. So as you can see, there's the module of the makeshift hospitals, and China was incredible in the way that it managed to build hospitals so quickly. So that was a major part of the original infographic, but as the story wore on, it became less interesting, so we moved it down. And as we found out scientific things such as how the virus was spread, how to wear a mask properly, all these things, we added them into the infographic, but kept moving stuff around, making depending on how the story developed as to how relevant that particular information was. So moved it up or moved it down. So it's a constant state of flux. Another thing with infographics that's important is lists. You want to simplify everything, and lists are a great way of doing that. Here we have a list of the people that were evacuated from Wuhan. Over on the right, this was part of the very early stages. Now, this was good and useful because we have lots of Chinese reporters. We have obviously a very strong mainland Chinese lady on the infographic team, and she got lots of data that was useful for us from social media in China. That's where we first heard about the wildlife markets and how that was where the breeding ground had started off. Yeah, here's a quick video as well. As when it started off, there was a mad rush on masks, and I think the rest of the world hadn't experienced this, but this was Hong Kong very early on. This huge queue to get the mask. Hang on a moment, I'm having problems with getting back to the yeah, here we go. So another thing is the value of repetition. So you even within the story, you can keep repeating things, but you can also take various parts from a story and repeat it in a different story. So this is for the wildlife market. We turned this into another story altogether, which was very important and explained why these wildlife markets exist in China, the cultural background to them, and how it probably led to the spread of the virus. Infographics have great impact. They're a great way to tell a story. You can strip out the jargon, you reward readers, they're neutral. And in this part of the world, that's a very important thing to have, so that your story is not open to misinterpretation. The other thing we do is we do print graphics, and I think they're a great discipline because you've got to be able to, like that, to tell the story. You've got to take one look and the reader has to know what the story is about. I think this one's a good example of that. This is right in the middle, that long bar in the middle is all the cases of coronavirus in Hong Kong. The one on the left are imported cases. The one on the right is the local cases, and we were able to show the clusters from abroad and the clusters from local, and they were very, very simple graphic. It got people's attention immediately and did very well virally. Again, this is more of the same, cut unnecessary information. This one was published today. Again, this is about the mobility. It shows very clearly how during lockdown, as the amount of deaths increased around the world went into lockdown and people's mobility just plummeted. So here we show it very clearly. And at the top, there's a very entertaining little piece of the size of your home. The one on the far left is the US. The one on the right is Hong Kong. So you can imagine working at home in a Hong Kong flat is not the easiest of things to do. Now, the other thing I really enjoy with infographics is keeping them counterintuitive. I think that's like a reward for readers. And this one we did was about testing for COVID. And we decided to use the US as an example because it was very much in the news at the time of how many tests we were doing. We took the map of America and took each state and compared that to another individual country. So that way we were able to show not just testing levels in the US, but testing levels all around the world. Quarantine in Hong Kong was very important. Hong Kong's an international city. So lots of people travel all the time. And actually, I've got quite a few more slides to show, but I'll stop on this one. I'm running out of time. And I'll just show you how, the graphics are the important part for us at CMP of how we tell tell visual stories using data. And the great thing with graphics is you can use them on so many different platforms, be it interactive, in the newspaper, as an infographic, or even as an animation. So I'll just show you a little bit here. If it's going to start, let's see. Okay, didn't start. So let's try one more time. Yeah, here we go. So you can imagine on the left and the right is the infographic version that you scroll down, you scroll through vertically. And the video team likes what we've done, so they took the assets from that and applied it to video. And video is a great way of getting our work out there. The infographics, some of his stories went viral, so we did get on one of them several million views, which is very unusual for us. But the video, I don't know, there's something about people that they just love to click things and see them moving. So if we can get our infographics into video, we know it's going to get a lot more eyeballs.